Lil Skies was one of the largest artists coming out of the SoundCloud era. His songs like Lust, I, Red Roses, and many more were doing crazy numbers at his peak. On top of that, his close relationship with hip-hop tycoon Cole Bennett heavily aided his career. Skies was dominating throughout 2018 and 2019. However, his latest album, Unbothered, only sold 15,000 first week, with the deluxe only selling 2.5. And it seems like after that, we haven't heard much from him. I've seen a lot of people asking what happened to Lil Skies or saying he fell off, but I don't think that's quite right. I was a huge fan of Skies throughout 2018 and 2019, and I've honestly enjoyed a handful of what he's put out recently. So let's take a look at what led to Skies disappearing and how that's affected his career. Lil Skies' dad was a rapper, so he grew up around music and has been making music ever since he was a kid. He even made an album with his dad. Skies was growing a fan base on SoundCloud throughout 2015 and 2016, with projects like Good Grades, Bad Habits Part 1 and 2, and some singles. However, 2017 was the year that things would really pick up for Skies. He dropped songs like Fake, Rude, and Red Roses, which would eventually be his breakout hit. He also dropped a project called Alone on SoundCloud. His catchy hooks, smooth flows, and splash of autotune were a lethal combo for his success. His beat selection was also fantastic. 4 months after releasing Red Roses, the music video for the song dropped on Lyrical Lemonade's channel, and it would absolutely blow Skies up. Shortly after he began blowing up, he dropped the album Life of a Dark Rose. It was an amazing project packed full of hits. Songs like Lust, Nowadays, Welcome to the Rodeo, and Signs of Jealousy were doing crazy numbers. I really like this album, and I'm not gonna lie, I was probably half of the 450 million streams for the song Lust. Fun fact for you guys, this is actually the second song I would add to my bangers playlist, where I would put the hardest hitting songs. I don't know if you guys can see this, but there's the proof right there. The hype from this album carried him into 2019, dropping his second album in March titled Shelby. This album again had a couple hits like Name in the Sand and I. It sold 50,000 units first week and was relatively successful, although I don't think it had nearly as much longevity as his first project did. I really enjoyed this project, and it was probably my most listened to album of that year, but after this album, it seemed like Skies disappeared. Throughout the rest of 2019, he would only drop 3 more songs, and they were alright. The song Magic was a pretty big hit for Skies. However, in 2020, he hardly released any music. He dropped 3 of his own songs, did 2 features, and did a song for the Fast and Furious soundtrack. He was hardly posting anything, and he only tweeted a couple times throughout 2020. This is most likely because he had a kid a few months after dropping Shelby. Combine that with the beginning of COVID, it seems like in 2020 Skies had his hands full with other things. So in his defense, it's not like he just up and disappeared, he was just busy doing his own thing. He said in interviews that his son was and is his main priority.
That's honestly what I was focusing on. Like when I had my son, I was like focusing more on him. Like this is what matters the most right now.
But when 2021 came around, he dropped another album in January titled Unbothered. This album sold 15,000 first week, which a lot of people think is pretty bad. Compared to his last album sales and the crazy success he had a few years ago, it's not that great, but in general it's not that bad. Other artists like Denzel Curry sold about the same amount first week, and he's got a pretty strong core fan base. But why didn't Skies' album get nearly as much attention as his last couple projects? Well, first of all, Skies took a 2-year break from dropping an album without dropping a lot of singles. He wasn't able to maintain the crazy hype that he had going for the previous years. Taking a break while you're in the process of blowing up and have a chance to solidify yourself as one of the big artists of your generation isn't doable for most artists. In my opinion, he could have been up there with the likes of Uzi, Yachty, Trippie, and artists like that. The second reason was because the singles in the album just weren't that great. They weren't bad, and there were a handful of songs that I really enjoyed and I put in my playlist, but overall they just weren't that great compared to his previous work. In terms of his album Unbothered, I think the marketing was there, which is the only reason I saw it, but the content just wasn't the best. A lot of fans blame the recent lack of quality on Skies, saying that he's been freestyling a lot of his most recent music. Then he dropped the deluxe for the Unbothered album, which only sold 2.5 thousand units first week. This is probably because there was like zero marketing for this. I didn't even hear or know about it until a couple months ago, and it was also about the same level of quality as the original album. He had a little bit of success in 2021 with his collaboration with Snot on the song Whipski, but other than that song, his name really hasn't been in circulation. Since he peaked in popularity in 2019, it's been all downhill from there. Recently, he's been losing thousands and thousands of followers by the month on Instagram. I think one of Skies' biggest issues is his lack of consistency and internet presence, and it probably doesn't help that he's receiving a ton of hate comments and a lot of fans asking to bring the old Skies back. Skies did mention that he struggled with depression a lot in 2019, and I'm sure that a lot of the recent hate he's been getting has reignited that.
I've been trying to work on myself so hard, bro. Like every day fighting this depression shit.
Depression can be a really tough thing to get through, especially when you're getting a ton of hate on the internet. So did Skies fall off? I don't quite think so. I think he has a very strong core fan base that still supports him and is still a pretty talented artist. He just hasn't had a hit recently. It's hard to compare when you had a lot of popularity at one point, but selling 15,000 units first week isn't bad, and he clearly has a strong fan base. At the time I'm recording this, he has 5.7 million monthly listeners, which is a lot of monthly listeners. His recent song with Landon Cube was pretty solid and did decent numbers, and I think if Skies releases more consistently and puts more effort into his newer music, he can definitely make a strong comeback. I really like the pop rap direction he did with Landon on his newest song, and I think if he keeps going in that direction, he'll have a few hits on his hands, especially if he gets back to working with Cole, reestablishing his internet presence, and ultimately makes really good music. He has also been teasing the album Life of a Dark Rose 2, which fans are very excited for and are hoping will drop later this year. All love to Lil Skies, and I'm excited to hear more music. Let me know in the comments how you guys are feeling about Skies and if you liked his most recent album or his most recent singles. If you like this video, you might like the video where I talked about why Ugly God disappeared. It should pop up on the top right of the screen. I think that's over here or over here. I don't know. Other than that though, this has been Matty Balls, and I'll catch you guys next time.